Welcome to the China Influencer Marketing Podcast. Each week, we speak with top influencers, marketers, and brands who share their experiences, strategies, and tactics for influencer marketing in China. Here's your host, Lauren Hallanan.
Hi, everyone. In this episode of the China Influencer Marketing Podcast, we chat with China marketing expert Ashley Dudarenok. In 2011, Ashley established Alaris International, a social media agency that offers creative marketing solutions for China. And in 2016, she and her team launched Chosen, a membership platform for China-focused marketers. Ashley has been featured in a variety of well-known magazines and online publications and has been invited to speak at many of China's top business and marketing conferences. I discovered Ashley through her weekly YouTube videos, where she teaches people the ins and outs of social media marketing in China. In this episode with Ashley, we cover a lot of ground. She gives concrete tactics, sharing the steps brands can take to identify the right influencers for their campaigns. She also shares the advantage of working with micro-influencers. What is Alibaba's concept of new retail, and how will it affect the future of influencer marketing? And her predictions for social media and influencer marketing trends in 2018. I love Ashley's energy and enthusiasm. She's super knowledgeable, and you can tell she talks about these topics a lot. Before we start, I just want to take a quick moment to thank our sponsor, Parklu. Parklu is China's premier influencer marketing platform. Learn more at parklu.com. And now, on to our interview with Ashley. So, Ashley, welcome to the China Influencer Marketing Podcast. I'm really excited to have you here.
Thank you, Lauren, for having me. I'm excited to be here as well.
Well, I'd like to start off with kind of the typical introduction question. It would be great if you could introduce yourself and kind of say, where you're at right now. What are you currently working on these days?
All right. So I'm running a big blog about China marketing, China, modern consumers, and basically social media in China. It's the world's #1 vlog on YouTube. I also run 2 companies that focus on Chinese social media. One is called Alaris, which is an agency where we help basically international brands to do social in China. And we also help a few big Chinese companies to do social outside of China. So we basically see the both worlds, I would say. And the second one is called Chosen, which is awesome. It's called Chosen in English. So that company is basically a platform that helps marketers do social media in-house, so they can learn all the content, they can understand how the platforms work in China, and basically educate their own team and do it by themselves.
Yeah, when I first heard about your company, that one, Chosen, I thought that was a great idea, just because I think a common complaint, a lot of companies, they want to do the marketing, but they don't have the budget to hire an agency to do all the marketing for them. But it's really difficult for someone who doesn't have knowledge of the China market to just hop on Weibo and open an account and start posting. So it seems like that's a happy medium for brands.
Yeah, for sure. Because the reason for us to start Chosen was exactly that. I mean, agency services, if you go with professional agency, are expensive, right? You spend $5,000 to $10,000 just to manage one platform a month. And only big brands or mid-sized brands can afford that are really serious about China. At the same time, there are so many smaller brands and businesses that just cannot afford, as you mentioned. And in terms of them not knowing what to do, I'll tell you that there are a lot of Chinese companies as well that have no clue what to do, just because, again, you cannot hire a person who is a professional marketer. You cannot just go out in this, to the university and hire that guy, because nobody is qualified. They do not teach that in universities and schools. You cannot send them to take some courses. So basically, even for agencies, that's the problem. That's the issue. What we as agencies do, we hire a person that can write well or design well or both. And then we train them to be professional and fluent with all these China platforms and behave native on them. So, of course, they are facing those issues. And the only option for them currently is to get a Chosan subscription, get all this information out there, train their internal team, and definitely walk through this educational phase much faster.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the social media marketing industry in China it's changing so quickly all the time. And like you said, I don't think the educational system has really caught up with it. And, especially, what we're going to talk about today, which is influencer marketing. I mean, that it's such a new industry, such a new industry that, there's a lot of Chinese people that don't even know what influencer marketing is. So I'm sure that like what you're saying, it's difficult. It's to educate and inform people about it.
Yeah, for sure. No, influencer marketing is a fantastic trend, and I agree that it's very new. And but I believe that most people in China do know what it is because they, on daily basis, are participating in 1, 2, 3, or 5 campaigns by influencers. They probably don't call it marketing. They believe that those bloggers, those influencers, those people actually genuinely care about them and suggest product, services, campaigns for them to participate in. But yeah, it is a huge phenomenon.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you're saying, they're participating in it and they follow these influencers, but a lot of them don't actually know this term like influencer marketing. They don't realize that it's like a thing. But yeah, let's start off by talking about, in your opinion, why is influencer marketing so important for brands that are looking to grow their presence in China?
Well, look at it this way. China market is extremely complicated, right? It's not, in fact, one market at all. It's many small markets, just like Europe. I love telling that, but I mean, China has 23 provinces and tons of basically cities with autonomous rights, etc. So at the end of the day, there are 34 distinct markets. China is a lot more like Europe rather than a unified country, a unified market that you can enter. So it's a complicated environment, diverse buying behaviors, diverse dialects, languages, preferences, etc. And I mean, right now, what kind of advertising options do you have? Alibaba, for example, is China's biggest advertiser. Baidu is the second largest advertiser. So you can go to those e-commerce platforms and you can put up a banner or you can rank higher. These are the options that you have. However, market is so oversupplied. It means there are so many Chinese and international brands, products, services that are trying to grab attention of consumers that, I mean, at the end of the day, you shut down your senses and you start noticing less and less advertising, right? In terms of TV, radio, print outs, I mean, all those things work, but they work locally. Yeah, so for example, if you're a coffee shop, then you can go and give out flyers, and that might work for sure in China still right now. However, digitally, this space is rather crowded. So having a person or, let's say an influencer that actually talks on your behalf and suggests your product brings out a lot of advantages. First of all, they have a large follower base that is very, very targeted. Very often in China, you cannot target that narrowly through advertising. Yeah, so if you use Weibo advertising, they can tell you sex, they will tell you location, they will tell you, a couple of interest tags, but you still do not know their behavior, you do not know how engaged they are, etc., etc., etc. So bloggers give you access to that large follower base and very targeted audience. At the same time, Chinese consumers are very different from those around the world. They actually genuinely believe recommendations of bloggers and celebrities. They seek that direction from people they trust. And bloggers are considered credible and informed. So, for example, I do not know how many people follow Britney Spears or Mariah Carey, but if she advertises something, I would be like, okay, she is paid for that, and I'm not going to rush to the store to buy it. However, in China, if a celebrity of that size would advertise something in China, people would feel that, oh, that's cool. She borrows her basically reputation. She puts her reputation on the line, and she suggests me that product. It better be good. So they will go and they will buy and they will try it. If she messes up, if that product is not good, that's her problem. Yeah, so that's the second, I think, reason. And of course, bloggers also produce original content and high quality content that very often brands cannot produce by themselves. So, for example, you invite them to an event, and they shoot all those cute videos and they edit it in their own style, and they do live streams, and they do a lot of creative photo shoots for product reviews, etc. So at the end of the day, it's basically large and targeted follower base. It's this direction and sort of endorsement, credible and informed decisions that they help their audience to take. And of course, it's production of content. At the same time, I'm speaking a bit too long, but at the same time, you need to understand that with bloggers, you can also create this kind of chamber effect when you find several bloggers from different industries, and all of them are talking about your brand from different angles. And the consumer, the person, let's say, located in Shanghai, hears about it from 5 different places, from 5 different bloggers. And this chamber effect is just amplified. For him, your brand looks huge, credible, great, and he goes and basically makes that purchasing decision, or has this lasting impression of what your brand stands for, etc.
Oh, I love what you just said at the end there. I think that was a really great insight about the chamber effect. I think that's something that a lot of brands maybe don't think about. They think about, oh, I'm in this industry, so I only should choose, influencers in this one industry. But actually, if you choose kind of all different types of influencers, then, like you said, they're receiving this message from many different angles, and it might make your brand appear bigger and more prominent than it really is. I think that's a really great point.
And definitely, and that's what bloggers can help you achieve. And advertising cannot do that, because advertising is not personal. And this chamber effect is, okay, they bought a lot of ads, and it actually makes people angry. If I see that advertising of that new BMW car everywhere I go, I open my laptop, it's there, my phone, it's there, my TV, it's there, outside there's a banner, it's there, I get angry. I was like, I'm not interested, I don't want to see it, But if you hear that same message from several bloggers or several people with different messages, that annoyance is sort of gone. And bottom line, what bloggers help a brand to do is basically raise awareness. They can also help attract new followers and contribute to brand credibility. And finally, they can help you sell.
Exactly. Yes, I totally agree. So because China is such a huge place, and there are so many influencers out there, and there's also a lot of influencers with fake followings or fake numbers. There's just a lot of, and also everything's in Chinese, which is hard for foreign brands looking to find influencers. So do you have any tips for how brands can find and identify the right influencers?
Yeah, sure. So let's speak about it in 2 different sort of directions or parts. Firstly, where to actually look for them, right? What are the platforms? Where can we find those bloggers? So the first platform is native platforms. So for example, you're looking for for a Weibo blogger, you actually go to Weibo and you input keywords, and you can find suggested bloggers. And on Weibo, for instance, there is a special influencer tab where you can go input keywords and again find relevant bloggers. Or like on WeChat, again, you type in the keywords and suggested list will appear. Or in Ichibo, etc., etc., etc. So that's the first way to find them. The problem with this is that very often irrelevant people show up, and you need to go pages and pages and pages, through pages of this content before you find somebody relevant. The second way to find a blogger is through a search engine, so KOL search engine. So for example, Robin8, there are a lot of Chinese companies like Dudarenok, and there's a lot of international companies I've mentioned like Robin8. Some of them offer very clear targeting, for example, like Park-Lu. So they focus on fashion, they focus on luxury, on cosmetics. So you go there, you join their service, and you can search for bloggers, and then you can either work with the bloggers directly. Some platforms allow that, so you get their contacts and you basically launch a campaign with them directly. Or in the case of Robin8 and Park-Lu, you launch the campaign on that platform. Yeah. So the good thing about it, they usually have much higher quality bloggers present on their platform. At least they are very active. But at the same time, you just have very little control over there in terms of, okay, if they are not present on the platform, who else is like them, right? So you've got limited options. The third way to find bloggers is through KOL agencies. So there are special, like, let's say, celebrity agencies out there that work with bloggers. For example, Louis Communications is the biggest one. And so they manage hundreds and sometimes thousands of KOLs. The good thing about it is you come and you say, I want somebody in fashion and I've got this in mind. And they say, okay, great. But we can offer you also other bloggers. So it would be difficult for you to find them, but they manage these pages so they can suggest very similar profiles. Very often their bloggers are also not that fake. It depends on the account, but so that's where you can find it. And the last way for you to find bloggers is have a marketing agency with whom you work, and they will do all those three for you. They will go to local platforms, they will go to search engines, and they will basically work through with KOL agencies in order to identify the best blogger and launch a campaign with them. And at the same time, I mean, you mentioned how to identify the right blogger. So after you found, a bunch of accounts, how do you make sure that this is the right for you? That's the second part of the question. You need to do audit. You cannot just sit there and hope that this guy that we found, he fits our budget. Okay, let's do this. You need to do the audit. And when you do that, you go to the page of the blogger, you read their content for at least 6 to 8 months. So you scroll down, you check what are the topics that they cover. You check average engagement. You see whether advertised posts are performing a lot better than everything else. You see whether if you were the person to follow that page, would it be interesting for you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you do that audit. And once you found people that you're satisfied with, that you think they're not buying fakes, you think that there's not too many fake comments and likes and reposts, et cetera, then you look at the content. You browse through, again, their content in the past 4 weeks. Are they talking about the topics where you fit in? Then you look at the engagement. You see, okay, do those people following the page comment negatively or positively? Is the person primarily sharing his lifestyle, or is it a business page and people are actually, buying? And it depends on what you're trying to do with this blogger. You also need to definitely check out whether this audience is your target audience. Sometimes on some platforms, it's much easier. For example, on Weibo, you can actually click into their profiles and see what's going on. Whether they are, people that you want to reach. On some platforms, it's more difficult, like on WeChat. But it's very, very common for brands to make that mistake. They go for a big blogger with a lot of followers. They launch a campaign, which is expensive, and then they figure out that the audience is not really what they were hoping for. And of course, you can filter out budget. In general, I don't suggest to work, if it's your first blogger corporation, do not work with very expensive bloggers. And when I mean expensive, it's somebody who charges 150 to 500,000 RMB per post, because, your expectations will most likely not be met Yeah, so if you expect with one campaign to achieve A, B, C, D in sales, that will most likely not be the case because people never heard about you before. You need to build up before that. You need to build up through chamber effect, through smaller influencers, etc. At the same time, I never recommend to go with the cheapest bloggers just because you can afford them. Yeah, you need to find somebody relevant in mid-range, in general, you need to adapt this kind of strategy. You select 5 to 10 bloggers, you work with them first, then you see which blogger performs best. You choose 5 out of them, you work with them again, then you choose 3 out of them, and with those 3, you keep working every, let's say, 3, 4, 5 weeks. So it's a long game. It's a strategy that you need to develop for a year, for half a year. So blogger marketing is never a one-time thing. So I hope that answers how to actually identify the right influencer.
Yeah, definitely. There were a couple of key things that you pointed out that I really, really want to like make people understand that I agree with. Especially the last one, I really liked what you were saying about narrowing down and finding bloggers that are a really good fit and then working with them over the long term. I've talked to quite a few influencers for this podcast, and I just have a lot of friends that are in the industry, and a lot of influencers really prefer those brands that want to create this long lasting relationship with them. They're much more likely to I don't know. I think they almost feel like their content that they create for this brand is even better because they start to, care a lot about this brand, and they feel like the brand cares a lot about them. And, and they also, because they get so familiar with the brand and their products, they're able to create better content that really, fits the brand's image as well.
But that's the only way. I totally agree. That's the only way to work with bloggers long term. And there are many, many ways, many reasons why. Not only content, not only the relationship, but also, it's like advertising. You don't jump, you advertise with Google, then you advertise with Yahoo, then you advertise with, Rumbler or Baidu every week. You choose a platform and you stick with it. So for you, blogger is not only a platform, it's also a human relationship. It's also the voice. It's so many things. So of course you need to stick with it. You need to respect it, and you need to invest in it, time, money, and everything else.
And also, especially, it depends on which platform you're using, but for Weibo, especially, the organic reach these days is declining. And so honestly, you might work with an influencer on Weibo and they send out a post and it does really well, but there might be a large portion of their audience that doesn't see that post. So just because of the organic reach of the platform, or maybe they just weren't very active on the platform during those days that the post went out. So sometimes it really takes several posts for all of their audience to see it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So you were talking about large influencers and mid-range influencers. What do you think about micro influencers in China? I think China has such a large, massive population. Are micro influencers still effective?
Yeah, for sure. In fact, I think micro influencers are the future in many, many ways. I don't think mid-sized influencers or large influencers will disappear as such. However, micro influencers are gonna, the numbers of those are gonna definitely increase. So what they are, basically they have smaller following, they have much higher ROI. They usually work in an exclusive niche that they crafted or carved for themselves. They have very devoted, I would say, and authentic audiences as well. So yeah, they are great. At the same time, we need to understand that, bigger is not better. Bigger bloggers are just different. You need to use them for different kind of campaigns. And, micro influencers are also not the answer to all your worries and vows and all your questions if you don't have budget. Yeah, so I think you need to use the balance of both for a different campaign or for different goals. How to find them, how to work with them, you need to understand that they are very often on very niche platforms. So, for example, they are on platforms like Xiaohongshu or Bilibili. So you need to go to that platform. You need to understand how it works. Then you need to nurture the relationship with them. So with a big blogger, very often you can, pay them, and they also do not want to talk to you if you don't pay upfront, right? So with micro influencers, you really need to build a relationship. You need to also understand what are they looking for. Some of them look for money, for compensation. Some of them look for exposure. Some of them really want to work with cool brands like GoPro or BMW or whatever your brand is. And some of them are looking for some VIP treatment and experiences. They want to be invited to events, etc., etc. So you need to understand that person, what they are looking for in this relationship. And and you need to also estimate. I mean, a lot of people look at micro-influencers and they say, okay, they've got 5,000 followers or 10,000 followers. Let's do this once and that's it. You need to look at them. You need to look at their lifelong value. Yeah, you need to see, okay, this person now with 10,000 fans, what's he or she going to be like in 1 year from now, in 2 years from now? Are they still going to have 10,000? Are they going to have 1 million fans? Are they going to stay in that niche? Are they going to expand? How can we help each other excel in our careers and reach our goals together? So these relationships, if you approach that relationship through this angle, these relationships are always very profitable and always very happy. You need to look at it as a lifetime kind of commitment. I personally think that they're great.
Yeah, I think it's funny because you kind of mentioned at the beginning of when you're answering the question that I think some brands might think that working with micro influencers is a cheaper option because they have like smaller audiences. But I think just with it can actually end up being the same, if not more expensive, just because you're trying to deal with so many micro influencers and you have to spend time to, like you said, to cultivate the relationships and to negotiate with them and everything. So it ends up being almost the same. It's just maybe the audience and their engagement with the audience is different than if you are working with a mid-range influencer.
Definitely. And it's always much higher. If it's a micro influencer, they have much better relationship with their audience just because it's more personal. Everything is more personal.
Okay. Do you have any, when might it be more effective for a brand to work with a micro influencer as opposed to like a larger influencer?
I think it depends on the goal. A lot of brands that I see in the market, when they launch a campaign, they want to get all. They want to get exposure, they want to build up their database, and they want to sell. Unfortunately, this is not possible. If you launch a campaign, it can either pretty much be focused on awareness, or it can be building your database, or it can sell. And of course, if you're launching a sales campaign, there will be a little bit of database build up, or there will be a bit of awareness, but you understand, yeah? So it's basically different focus. So if you are working with, you are, let's say, a big company and you want to go for sale campaign, then for you, mid-sized KOLs and micro influencers are great. Because you can create a lot of basically noise, a lot of chamber effect. You need to use, 30, 40, 50 of them, like some big Chinese companies are doing, but it creates a lot of noise and you can sell very fast, very easy. Or you can work with one big blogger, one big KOL, who endorses your product exclusively. So for example, you create a bag or you create speakers which carry the name of that blogger, and he or she sells it to their audience. This is also possible, and this is also very effective. But you see two different ways. If you're a small brand and you are going for, awareness, you just cannot afford mid-sized bloggers. You cannot afford large KOLs. So for you, micro-influencers would be the place to start, even for awareness. When you are a mid-sized brand, then for awareness, you go to mid-sized bloggers. Yeah, so you see, it really depends where you are. But in general, I would say, think about it. Identify whether you want awareness, whether you want your database, or whether you want sales first. And then think what makes more sense for your specific brand, for your specific product, and for this specific season. Because you cannot discount seasonality in China. Yeah, are you launching a campaign for Chinese New Year or for Double 11, or are you launching a campaign for Mother's Day, or are you just launching a campaign in the middle of the year when nothing is happening and you want to to stand out while this noise is really down? So you need to think about all of those before deciding.
Got it. Okay, thanks. So I think another reason that a lot of brands are hesitant to work with influencers is because they feel like the results are often very abstract. Except for, maybe if it's a sales campaign, then they can obviously see the sales numbers. But, if it's awareness, awareness is such an abstract thing, So do you have any suggestions for brands for measuring influencer marketing effectiveness in China?
Sure. So I get this question a lot, and I always love to, I just love to put this parallel on the table. When companies spend millions of dollars by putting a banner or, let's say, advertising shield up in the airport, how do they count ROI? How can they say, okay, what is the effectiveness of that particular banner? It cost me $500,000 a month of US dollars. So how can you say whether it's effective or not? It's just there. When they bring it back to digital is fantastic because you can pretty much measure everything, right? So people expect wonders. They want to say, okay, I'm going to invest 100,000 US dollars and I want to get 150,000 value. If that's the way things worked, I think everybody would be in advertising business and everything would be super, super easy and smooth. But it's not. So there are ways, of course, to track performance, and there are so many aspects to a campaign that influence how well or badly or whatever it's performing. So first of all, of course, many brands care for numbers. So they say, okay, how many people saw my post, how many people purchased, how many people commented, liked, how many new followers I acquired. These are all very general KPIs. We are doing that in the West as well with Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. However, in China and in the rest of the world, you need to understand that there are fakes. There's a lot of shuijun. You can go to Taobao and for 10 RMB you can buy yourself, thousands of followers and comments and et cetera. So this KPI, this numeral KPI, becomes rather irrelevant. What really matters is it genuine? Is it real? And what impact is it going to have on your brand long term? So how I always advise people to set their KPIs first. Don't be delusional. First, you need to run a campaign. Run your first campaign. See what is the baseline, and then improve from there onwards. You cannot set KPIs like a lot of international brands entering China. They set KPIs while they are sitting back in Switzerland or in the USA, and say, okay, that's what worked in our European market or US market, and we want to get the same ROI in China. So here is the budget of $1 million US or 100,000 US dollars a year, and that's what we're expecting to get in return. And that's how many people we want to grow. That's how many blah blah blah. So they don't understand that the market is very, very different. So the first thing you do, you run the campaign. You see what is the baseline. How is your product performing? How are these bloggers or this advertising or that channel is working? And then from there onwards, you can improve. The beauty of digital marketing is that you can track what is the baseline and try to improve from there. Yeah. And so I hope that helps, right? And of course, the same thing works. Start with several bloggers, then cut those that are not performing, work with the ones that are performing, and work with them long term.
And now it's time for this week's Parklu Influencer Marketing Insights. Brands take note. China influencer brands crushed this year's 11/11 Single Day Sales event. For the first time in 11/11 Singles Day history, China influencer brands broke into the top 10 best-selling fashion stores. A total of 6 influencer-run stores made it into the top 30. Out of those 6, 4 made over 100 million renminbi. Anna It's Amazing's store came in at number 7. She was only beat out by brands like Uniqlo, Only, and Peacebird. Influencers have already mastered social media, and now they're becoming the masters of content to commerce conversion. Brand marketers must pay attention to what these influencers are doing because they connect, serve, and understand their audiences better than anyone else, and therefore are able to offer products that their audiences really want, transforming sales into a form of entertainment. If you're a brand not working with influencers, it may be that you'll be replaced one day by an influencer brand. To learn more, go to chinainfluencermarketing.com/Parklu and enjoy the rest of the podcast.
Okay, so I want to kind of switch the topic a little bit. I know that now a couple weeks ago already, wow, time flies, you were part of a group that got to go to Alibaba's Singles Day gala. And since then, I've been seeing you putting out a lot of content about Alibaba's new concept of new retail and a lot of the new changes that they're making and kind of pushing in the China market. So I was wondering if you could explain to everybody, what is new retail? What is this concept?
Sure. The Alibaba every year invites about a dozen global influencers to join their not only gala, but basically for 3 days we had intimate meetings with their top executives, and we were speaking with Joe Tsai and Chris Tung and Michael Evans, the top management of Alibaba. About the future of the company, the future of China, the future of retail. Everything Alibaba is doing is driven by the vision of Jack Ma. And this new retail actually came as a part of 5 news. Yeah, so 5 new things that Jack announced a couple of months ago. So there's new retail, there's new finance, new manufacturing, etc., etc., etc. But the new retail is at the heart of it. So what is it? Basically, it's the concept of uni-channel. And uni-channel is it's not omni-channel. It's not when a company is present everywhere. It's not that I'm a brand and I've got offline store and I've got a desktop version of my shop and I've got a mobile app to be everywhere my consumer is. But it places the consumer in the center, so that they have seamless experience through all the platforms and through various retailers. So uni-channel, it means it's unified and it's focusing on consumer. I know it's difficult to understand and it took me a while, but it's actually quite cool. So for example, you are browsing, Tmall, and you found this, this jacket that you like, but you didn't buy it. Next day, you go to an offline store, which has no relation whatsoever with Tmall, but your phone pins you and says, hey, the jacket that you looked at is actually in this store. You can go and try it on. You go, you try it on, you like it. You can buy it either on Tmall or you can buy it right there. And you can pick it up or you can deliver it to your home. Then you walk into another store, let's say department store, and you see a scarf, and they know that you just bought something in another store, and they say this scarf is actually going to match perfectly this new jacket that you bought. If you buy it now, we're going to give you 20%, blah, 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 blah. So as you see, the consumer is in the center of that retail journey, and he or she interacts with different channels, with different retailers, it's basically none of the consumer's business how and who is selling to them. They just want to get this kind of unified experience, online, offline, which is highly personalized and is really, really fun for them. Besides, so is it clear how I'm explaining it? Because
it is. No, yeah, I think it's clear. I think my first reaction is like, ooh, that sounds cool, but that's also a little bit creepy that like my phone, is going to know what I'm doing so much. But then really my phone already has a lot of information about me already. So I shouldn't be too creeped out.
Exactly. So, I mean, Google already knows everything. And it's quite amazing. I mean, I've got this Google Smart Home thingy in my living room, and I can talk to Google, like ask, hey, Google, what do I have today? And it tells me. I can play music. It can play my favorite playlist. It's amazing what it already knows. And I just bought it a couple of months ago, and it already knew so much about me by just plugging into my calendar, plugging into my mailbox, and etc. So in China, I understand that in the West we mind a lot, right? But in China, people do not really mind giving up that personal information because they're getting so much out of it. They're getting so much convenience, which is implemented right now, right there, not sometime down the road. When in the West we're giving up our privacy, we are being bombarded with advertising messages, right? So you allow Google to collect something, and then it just wants to pre-sell or push ads onto your phone or onto your laptop. In China, they try to make your life easier. So everything is so personalized, it's impossible to basically visit the same landing page twice because it changes real time. Two people sitting there and logging onto, I do not know, Tmall will see completely different pages. The products, even during like 11/11 festival, the products suggested to them will be completely different, and it will constantly learn. So that kind of consideration, oh my goodness, it's creepy or strange and I don't feel comfortable, that does not exist in China right now. People really don't mind. They adapt technology, they adapt to these new circumstances very fast, and they don't mind giving up some of their personal data for the greater benefit down the road. So apart from this kind of uni-channel, what is new retail? It's also retail as entertainment. That's a very big theme right now in China. So previously people bought because they wanted to, they wanted to replace the product that broke, or they wanted to try something new. Right now, the whole market is moving towards entertainment. They say, okay, I like something and it's fun, I'm going to buy it. And this kind of shopping experience will be transformed into something very, very fun, gamified. So, for example, during 11/11 festival, there was this option that people watching in the comforts of their own homes could scan QR codes or scan their screens and participate in games. So you will see, let's say, catwalk, and you like something the guy is wearing, so you just scan this guy and you long click on his jacket and you can buy it right away. Or you could scan a QR code and this guy on the catwalk could appear in your living room. So the catwalk is literally happening in your living room. So you look through the mobile phone and you can see him walking back and forth in your living room. And again, you can long press and you can purchase the jacket or the pants or the shoes that he is wearing just because you like it. So it becomes really fun, really gamified. And of course, it's also basically powered by a few big players. Alibaba, Tencent, there's JD a little bit here and there, and all of them are trying to get onto that boat. They are trying to get onto this uni-channel, uni-commerce, new retail, new marketing thing. So China will definitely be transformed. And you know what? I mean, if we just put it in a very simple formula, for years people were talking about online and offline, the battle between online retail and offline retail. Who is going to win? Are the offline shops going to disappear, or online stores gonna fade out because we still want offline experiences. So now in China, there's no questions asked anymore, because we all understand that the battle is over, and the winner is uni-channel, and the winner is somewhere in the middle. There will be offline stores and there will be online stores, but they will all be brought together, highly personalized, highly entertaining, for this specific consumer.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's incredible how quickly things are moving and changing in China, and I feel like some of those concepts we see, especially with as far as entertainment, I feel like some of those concepts are playing out here in the West, but I feel like things are just moving so much more quickly in China, especially because, like you were saying, people there are so accepting of change, and they are very welcoming of change, and so there's not as much resistance from the consumer. So, do you think that new retail, that this concept of uni-channel retail will affect influencer marketing? And if so, how might it affect it?
It will definitely affect influencer marketing. As I told you before, I really think that more and more micro-influencers are going to pop up in China. And how is this going to be done? So in new retail, they also allow you to, let's say, for example, I get to the store and I'm experiencing a product like facial mask or facial brush. Then they take a picture of me in a studio setting. Yeah, so a lot of pop-up stores in China have mini studios there. So they take a picture of me, they edit it, and they send it to my WeChat. The moment I shared it out, I get a discount, and I get a free product to try. So they encourage me as the person who just tried that mask to actually share it out. Also, when you come, for example, to an offline store, fashion store, I do not really need to put on dresses anymore. I can just create my own avatar right there that looks exactly like me, and I can use virtual mirror to try on different outfits. And I know how it sounds, but it looks actually very accurate. Yeah, and you can later on pick the looks that you really like and try them on physically. But basically, with this avatar, you can also get it to your phone and share it out and ask your friends, launch a poll and ask them, okay, shall I go for A or shall I go for B? So you become an influencer. And again, for sharing it out, you get a discount or you get a small gift. You become an influencer. And the longer it goes and the more pop-up stores are there, I truly believe that in the coming 2 to 3 years, we're going to see a tremendous increase in those pop-up stores in China. More people will feel that they have the power to influence purchasing decisions, to influence preferences of their friends and people that are following them. So more micro influencers will definitely emerge. In I do not know, in not so distant future, each of us will be a media company, documenting our life and sharing it out and influencing the decision of others. Besides that, already right now there are a lot of basically social selling models where these kind of small bloggers or micro influencers, or I would even say just generally popular individuals within their community, they can share out links to products that they bought, and whoever buys from that link will get a discount. And the person who shared that link will also get, again, either points or presents, etc., etc. So this kind of social selling will definitely be even more popular and even more prominent in China in the coming years. So all of that you see coming together in this concept of new retail.
Okay, okay, I get it now. So it's really going to encourage average consumers to become micro influencers, and kind of everyone can influence everyone, and give us, I feel like it's, there's already a lot, we already do a lot of contests on social media, share this and you have the chance of winning something, blah, blah, blah. So, but I feel like these are kind of new iterations and much more technological, much more modern iterations of kind of these contests that were already running on social media, where the whole point of the contest is so that you'll repost the photo on Instagram and then all your friends will see it and learn about the product and then you have like a chance of winning it. But this is kind of a much easier way to do that, and it's a little bit less obnoxious too, because you're also kind of sharing like, hey, look at this cool fun thing that I saw at the store, or like you said, you're picking an outfit out and you're like, hey, which one looks better on me? And so it's not as obnoxious, it's more interactive.
Exactly. And it's a lot more native and it's a lot more subtle. And people, we look at it as marketing, but a lot of people in China now, and we visited those stores and we spoke with people sitting there and sharing that out. They don't feel that this is marketing. They just feel that they are documenting their life, I went to this store and I tried that stuff. Okay, so I'm documenting it. I'm talking about it. And if it's a cool brand, I'm actually very proud to share it out. Yeah. So it's good for those that I share it with, and it's good for me, and it enhances sort of my status as well among the people that follow me. So it's really, really interesting how they put it all together, and I'm really a big believer in that. At the same time, big and mid-sized bloggers and even the micro-influencers we spoke about before will definitely have to adapt and adjust and, come up with better content because they will have a lot more competition from upcoming users. They will have to come up with better content. They will have to come up with new, getting onto new platforms and seeing how to actually plug themselves into the life of the user, into the life of their audience better. Because right now, it's not so plugged in. Yeah, people, if I want to see what you as blogger are doing, okay, I'm following you, so I need to proactively go to your page or your posts are appearing in my on my wall. But later on, there will be just so much content, and you need to give me a much better reason to actually go and proactively do that. Or you need to plug your content and your platform and your sharing into my life a lot more than now.
Okay, I get what you're saying. So I want to start to wrap up, and I have one kind of last question, somewhat related. Is just, what do you see, it's kind of the end of 2017, 2018 is coming up. What do you see as the kind of trends with content, so like formats, types of content? Do you think it's video, live stream, short, long? What do you see kind of coming up in the future that might be, popular in China?
So in terms of content, I definitely see a lot more videos coming up into 2018. Many traditional Weibo bloggers are now changing to short videos or incorporating a lot more short videos and live streaming onto their content mix. I also believe that it's going to be a lot more balanced out. People still like reading long articles, but it needs to have GIFs, it needs to have videos inside the long article. People still like live stream, but they are not as crazy as, let's say, half a year ago or a year ago or 1.5 years ago when it was all new. So you need to make sure that live streams are not just blah blah, but they are real fun, or they are really regular. Yeah, you need to promise them that every day at 6 o'clock it's going to be happening, for 30 minutes. I also see, in terms of short videos, I see them getting shorter. So within 1 to 3 minutes, is a good time. But the quality of content is constantly on the rise. So I believe more and more bloggers and influencers are going to be under pressure to actually come up with more creative, more fun, high quality, better designed content than ever. So I believe in pictures still, but more creative pictures. I still believe in memes. China is huge on memes, I'm sure you know. But again, these are new social kind of, you can never predict them because they are just like, social hot trends that come up and go. I do believe in long articles, but as I mentioned, with, multimedia inside. And I also believe in new platforms, right? I'm sure that next year we're going to see new platforms or existing platforms like Weibo acquiring a couple of new platforms, just what they did with Miaopai, with Izhibo, purchasing live streaming and short video platforms to boost their performance. So I also believe we're going to see some of those mergers next year. And I am a big believer in young generation. I mean, those guys that are now 14, 15 years old, I'm sure they will change the way social media works and, the way it develops in the coming year, 2 or 3, beyond recognition, because they are a completely different breed of people, and they are becoming stronger and stronger in terms of the way they influence digital in China.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much for sharing. Lastly, I want to ask, do you have any upcoming projects or events or anything that you're working on that you're excited about that you would like to share with the audience?
zan.co. I'm sure Lauren is going to put it out under the video.
Yes, definitely.
And then either me and my team will respond to them. And if you want to follow me, the best way to follow me is either on my personal website, ashleytalks.com, or on YouTube or Instagram, as I mentioned above.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much. I know you are incredibly busy, with 2 companies and your own personal brand. So I really appreciate you taking time out of the day to come on the podcast. And I feel like you provided a lot of really insightful information that I know is going to be useful to listeners. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lauren. It was a great pleasure.
Hi, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that interview with Ashley. You can find links to all of her websites and social media channels in the show description or in the show notes on ChinaInfluencerMarketing.com. Before you go, I want to share a couple of my key takeaways from this episode. The first is that companies should be building long-term relationships with influencers. Don't one and burn. The longer an influencer works with your brand, the better they will understand the brand, and that will come through in their work. Furthermore, a one-off post isn't going to create as much of an impact as several posts sent out over an ongoing period of time would. The second thing I want to mention is that concept of new retail. This topic has been creating a lot of buzz lately. I'm sure you've heard it mentioned prior to listening to this episode. In my opinion, some of the ideas behind new retail are great, but others are a bit superfluous, and it will be interesting to see how this concept plays out in the long term. For example, I think it would be amazing to walk into a mall and tell my phone that I am looking for, let's say, a black winter coat within a certain price range. And then my phone would tell me all the stores in that mall that are currently selling an item that fits that description. I would absolutely love that. It would save me a ton of time. What I would not find useful is all the other suggestions that Ashley mentioned about, matching clothes and things like that. I don't want to be constantly staring at my phone, sorting through a million messages and notifications. I want to be enjoying my shopping trip and chat with the person that I'm with, not just staring at my phone the whole time. If I'm staring at my phone the whole time, then I might as well just be shopping online, right? Some of the technologies, such as virtually trying on outfits, don't really appeal to me either. I think that's just technology for technology's sake, but who knows? Other people might find it fun and helpful. What I resonate with the most with is that Chinese companies are realizing that there is still a place for brick and mortar stores. People like the physical experience of going shopping with friends and seeing items in person. And these companies are trying to find ways to improve that experience and bring it into modern day. So I think it's great that they are experimenting with anything and everything and seeing what sticks with consumers and what doesn't. So that's it for my takeaways, and I'd love to hear what you thought of this episode. You can leave me a comment on ChinaInfluencerMarketing.com. And as usual, if you liked this episode and know somebody else who might like it too, don't forget to share. Thanks, and talk to you next week.